You are entering the Twilight Zone in a world where the Astros can have a 3-0 lead going into eighth inning with 2 outs, and Ryan Stanek and Montero can give up 7 runs. How does that happen? And then you have the game on Sunday where Bielak pitches as well as he could, but you can't score any runs. This is what we're going to talk about on this edition of the Locked On Astros podcast that starts now.
Alvarez hits a high drive center field. Beer leans back. This game is turned upside down. There's the runner. Fly ball down the right field line. Tucker comes on. Kyle Tucker. This time they finish the job.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we update you to join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on Twitter at Eric Talk Stros. Find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Brett, where can they find you at?
They can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. They can find me at Stros411 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Always positive, always Stros.
All right. I know there's not a lot to be positive after this, after the series. I know Friday had its ups and downs, but you had Alvarez, you had Tucker that had good series, but a game in that one. But JP France started good. This is some of the stuff we're going to be talking about. And Altuve, he took some batting practice and he looked good. How good? We'll talk about that a little bit later. Huysman and McCormick, Michael Brantley, they're coming back soon. When? And Luis Garcia, he's out for the season, Brett. I can't believe this. We'll have to talk about that. And then also we're going to talk about the rest of the series and look ahead towards Angels. So make sure you tune in and stay tuned to the Locked On Astros podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen every day, whether it's on YouTube. Go and keep on subscribing. Go and make us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you check out your podcasts. Go and check out the Locked On Astros podcast. So, Brett, if you're looking at what happened today, before we get to the series, I think let's get to the injuries. The injuries seems to be something that is primary on everybody's mind right now because the Astros desperately need some help. What are they saying about Jose Altuve?
Well, Jose Altuve, they say within, I guess, the next week or so could be sent on a rehab assignment to begin hitting. And that would mean that he probably, I would think, would be here by the end of May, first part of June. I would almost like to think that what they'll do is, and I believe Dana Brown said this, is I think he's ready for what's called a 10-day IL stint. If that starts the time clock, then they'll just have to wait those 10 days, which gives him enough time to get to Sugar Land. Sugar Land actually comes back this next week at home. And then that would, I think the timeline with them being at home and the Astros being away for 9 games, by the time they come back to Houston, he may be on the precipice or on the cusp of doing that. But the fact that he was hitting home runs, hitting for a second day in a row, swinging with no pain is definitely a good sign. And after an anemic offensive output against the Mariners this weekend, right, it couldn't come at a better time because you look to the other side of the West and the freaking Rangers are crushing the Angels like 16-8 or something like that. I mean, these other teams are scoring a lot of runs. The only team that's pretty much not even there, MIA or the Oakland A's or the Las Vegas Low Blinds or whatever you want to call them, they are having a terrible season. And look, the sky's not falling. We're back at 500. I know there's a lot of concerns, but hopefully Altuve, the 10-day IL stint, I think, should be announced here within the next few days, I believe.
Okay, so Alex Antrone said that's some of his best swings I've ever seen him take in BP and the cage. Consistency-wise, intensity, it's amazing. And Joe Espada said also that it's amazing where he's at right now. He looks game ready. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but he looks game ready. And the fact that he's hitting balls 450 feet, that's pretty special. I'm not surprised he's doing that right now, but when you see it, you just can't believe it. And so I think they're going to play it safe with him. They're not going to rush him back. They're not going to, you see how they've kind of baby stepped with Michael Brantley, took the long process to get him back. And I think especially after, despite the team calling him Wolverine with his healing process, Jose Altuve, I don't think they're going to rush him, but I think the end of May would be a good idea for when we can expect to see him back. But there's been some other news. Michael Brantley and Chas McCormick are coming back sometime this week. It's expected that Chas McCormick is likely to come back first, and then Michael Brantley likely the next day. So likely Monday, from what we understand, for Chas, and then Tuesday, depending on how Michael Brantley looks. And he's been playing a little bit of first base. Let's not read too much into that, right, Brett?
Yeah, and I mean that's what the club says, but you always have to have an option. Obviously, David Hensley first base option is not looking optimal. 1 for 31 or whatever. Hensley really, to me, has been a surprise in the disappointing way, because we thought with the plate discipline he exercised in the playoffs and crunch time, hey, that's hopefully going to translate to the 2023 season, and it just simply hasn't. And maybe that's attributed to Hensley not getting everyday playing time. We do know that baseball can sometimes be a rhythm sport, but then again, we got regulars that have been in rhythm all season and they haven't seemed to find their way into, success. But let's not forget, today Jose Abreu hit a double. It wasn't a home run, but it was a double. He got on base and he actually scored. He scored the lone run today. He was knocked in. The Astros clearly have confidence in him, but to have another first base option, why are they not putting Diaz at first base? And if you're going to work Brantley at first base, why the hell wouldn't you put him at first base in the major leagues for a game or two? Doesn't mean he's taking Jose Abreu's spot, but sometimes the dude needs a breather. He's clearly shown decline this year, and it's time that they start doing something. I know you're paying him a lot of money, but you know what? He's a human being just like the other guys. And sometimes a reset is a good thing. You're not sending them down. You're not demoting them. So it would be interesting to see if they do put anybody else there at first base. I really think they need to take the whole he's 36 years old, former MVP hat off and say, all right, Abreu, we're going to let Diaz start a game. Every fifth game, we're going to let Brantley start a game. All right. I don't know, why not at this point?
Well, I think it was what they did was they sat him as a DH and took him off the field, thinking that would help a little bit. And he did get a couple walks in Saturday's game, and we saw him make some decent contact in Sunday's game. So, but yeah, I see comments over here.
We definitely are getting some decent comments right now.
Yes, but I think that what they're going to do, if they're going to get Michael Brantley into a major league game at first base, it's going to be either in a blowout, in a game that doesn't matter, just to get him some experience there. So Luis Garcia, since we last talked, it was announced that he will undergo the Tommy John surgery. It has not been announced when he will have it, but he's out for the entire season. And that would explain what happened that other day. When he only threw 8 pitches, and Jose Urquidy said he will be shut down from throwing from 10 days on May 2nd, but they're expecting that he's going to be back probably sometime around the All-Star break. So that's around July. So it looks like Brandon Bielak and JP France are going to be in the starting rotation until Lance McCullers comes back, and Lance McCullers did throw a bullpen, and so he's making progress. So he's still a month away. So,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought. I apologize.
It's fine, but it's good to have all the little parts that you might need just in case you. We'll talk about what maybe Dana Brown can do in a second, at the trade deadline, but it's way too early to be talking about what they can do. But definitely you need the parts you need in case you have some injuries to your rotation or to your vehicle.
Yeah, that's right. For a championship team like the Houston Astros, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. And I know some of y'all would argue, well, maybe they don't have the perfect fit right now. Well, it's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know that your part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game. And when you shop at eBay Motors with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Oh, so
Sorry.
Eric, if that's okay, if everybody is interested in still listening to the Astros and they haven't jumped off the Astros bandwagon, then they can catch all the Astros and Angels game, every play, every catch of the hometown broadcast Monday night, 9:10 Central Standard Time. That's right, on the SXM app, search Astros.
All right, yeah, definitely. And I think pretty soon all the Locked On Astros podcasts will be on Sirius XM as well. And that's super exciting. So I'm glad that we're starting to partner up with them.
Yeah.
But I know that a lot of people are like, well, shouldn't the Astros go out right now and trade for a starter? But I don't think that's how it works. And Dana Brown kind of addressed this. And he said it's very difficult to go outside our organization right now. If there's something that makes sense from the outside, we'll do it. It's just that in the month of May, no one's interested in giving up starters. We'll work as hard as we can to find starters. I don't think teams are motivated to give up starters. It's probably going to be overpay, but it doesn't mean that you don't look. We do have some internal candidates, but at the end of the day, it's going to be very difficult this time of year. So it's too early. Usually you have to wait till closer to the trade deadline. And some of the internal candidates that he's talking about is maybe Ronel Blanco, who was sent down option. We haven't talked about that to get up JP France, but the reason why he was optioned was to extend him out to be a starter.
Okay. Yeah. And that makes sense. And, he's been a mixed bag of goods so far. He hasn't done super great, but he hasn't been terrible. Their internal options, I don't think are make me super excited baseball wise, but you have to play with the hand that you're dealt. And I think the Astros will navigate this fine. Bottom line is the offense has been a complete shell of itself. And while I know other shows are assuming that the Astros have hit some proverbial wall where they're never going to return to greatness and all these things, that simply couldn't be farther from the truth. It is May 7th. And look, if I'm saying this on August 7th, then maybe there's a proverbial wall for this season. But it's difficult to repeat a championship. And I know the expectations are high. But what we have to do is hope that guys like Bielak and France can really help sustain and hold the line. At the same time, our veterans are not getting it done at the plate. Alex Bregman, he may be getting walks, but he needs to be getting RBI. He needs to be getting hits. He needs to be getting home runs. Home runs at home. He loves hitting home runs at home. He's hit one at Minute Maid Park. And Abreu looks sometimes absolutely lost the plate. He's got to figure it out. And when Diaz gets his shot every fourth game, like I'm so frustrated why they're not giving him more starts, he needs to contribute. And sometimes he has. He'll go in there and have a 2-for-4 game. But he needs more opportunities. And so at some point, the fan base's cries and concerns become legitimate, okay? The concerns of Dusty's managing or lack of managing or bullpen management or who he's putting in, it's just you have to at some point question things as they go along. I try to temper my expectations knowing that baseball is going to happen. Every once in a while, you're going to give up a 7-run inning, and that's going to happen. But it just seems like right now, more times than not, Eric, the offense is just not there.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you on the internal options because one of them showed off pretty good on Saturday. We'll talk about that in a second, but I do want to address Alex Bregman real quick. He's 0 for 4. He went 0 for 4 today. He is now slashing 195, 322, 320 after 152 plate appearances. Yes, like you said, he's getting the walks. He has 4 home runs. I believe he has 13 RBIs off the top of my head. But him and Abreu have both started all 31 Astros games, just because you don't really have anybody really to replace them. And you don't have anybody to play first base. David Hensley isn't giving you a reason to say, hey, put him in, even though he did start for him at first base on Saturday, but he still stayed in game as DH. And then nobody's really out over there playing third base instead of Alex Bregman. So they're going to have to play him out. And that's what Dusty Baker's way. And I saw somebody in the comments say that Jose Abreu doesn't want an off day. He wants to play his way out of it. But that's the veteran way of doing it. And
it is. I understand that, but I'm sorry. They give rest days for other reasons, like rest. And a 36-year-old that's showing decline early in the season, maybe he needs rest. I mean, if rest is constituted for a 24-year-old player, why in the heck doesn't it constitute rest for a 36-year-old player? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, don't tell me that you're resting players to extend them over the season, but you have a 36-year-old guy who's not doing crap at the plate, but you're not willing to rest him because he wants to play through it. Maybe he needs a rest. Maybe that's the best thing for the player. Maybe the player doesn't always have his best interest in mind because he's a competitor. That's what you want. You want your guy going out there. I want Abreu to want to be out there. I want him to hate. But you know what? Hey, Abreu, you know what? Dude, let's just take a chill pill. Let's just not play this game. Why don't you know what? When our young hitters get up, I need you sitting right next to them, talking to them about the next at bat, about your approach, about how you got to a 311 career runners in scoring position. Maybe that's what needs to happen, because in reality, it's not whether you're in or you're out. It's how much you're contributing. And Jose Abreu can contribute on the bench for a game. I'm not saying he loses a starting job. I'm just saying, why is it okay to rest a 24-year-old, but it's not okay to rest a 36-year-old? What are you doing?
I need to just switch them out. But
yeah, just switch them out. What are you doing?
Can we please talk about JP France instead of Jose Abreu? JP France showed up legitimately. I mean, he's one of 4 Astros rookies to start their major leagues with 5 or more shutout innings. You know who he joined? Do you know which pitchers?
No, I don't.
You should. JP joined. It was Jared Cozart, Carlos Hernandez, and Hunter Brown as the only pitchers to in Astros history in their major league debut to throw 5 or more shutout innings in their major league debut.
I did not know Jared Cozart was on that list. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm sure the baseball nerds will crucify me for that, but had no idea Jared Cozart was on that.
Yeah. So his start didn't get off to a great start. I mean, he struck out a batter, then he allowed a single, then a walk, and then a hit by pitcher. But then he strikeout. So he threw 29 pitches in the first inning. Huh?
He had 4 strikeouts in his first 2 innings, though.
Yeah.
JP France did phenomenal. JP France, like the team, I hope they all apologized to him after that. That was hogwash. Like, how do you do that? How do you implode? I mean, they should have scored more than 3 runs, Eric. They ruined his debut. Now, JP France afterwards this is one cool cat. This dude has grinded for 6 years in the minor leagues, and he finally got there. And every time he talked about it, he got emotional. I absolutely love it. The whole mustache thing, the Stash Gang is coming to Houston. I'm just saying, be on the lookout for it. But JP France, good job, son. That was a great outing. And I think that right there will give him confidence as the next start. That will give the team confidence with him going out there. So it's a very good thing what we saw despite the loss that night.
And it was good to see Yordan Alvarez go over there and reach into the stands to get that final out when he was struggling a little bit. it's good to see your guys go out of their way to make that final out in the 5th inning. So he was able to go 5 innings. So that was great to see. And the Astros should have won that game. They're up 3-0 in the 8th inning, 2 outs. Montero was up, and it's just like with somebody like Montero, it's like, okay, this is the guy you paid a lot of money for in offseason. He was your prized offseason pickup. In addition to Jose Abreu, and then he gave up 4 runs. Then Stanek came in and gave up 3 runs, and it was just like, what the heck happened? It was just a bunch of singles, bloops, then a double by J.P. Crawford, and then everything just fell apart.
The walk and the double, yes, but those defensive flubs behind him, those aren't on him.
Right.
That outing, when I went back and looked over everything that went down in that inning, you cannot put that, because I did initially. I was like, oh my gosh, this was not the play, putting Montero in. But then after I went back and looked, this wasn't on him. He's got a defense behind him that has to make sound defensive decisions, not throwing the ball away, not running into each other. And the defense just simply didn't do their part. But the Astros do live to play another day. Their season's not over. They play the Angels Monday at 9:10 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can catch every pitch of the Astros hometown broadcast with Sparky and Ford on Sirius XM on the SXM app. Search Astros, and very soon you will be able to catch the Locked On Astros podcast on all Sirius XM, whether it's streaming or whatever. But let me tell you, if you listen to the show, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, if you would, go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review if you like what you hear. That would mean a lot to us. And go to our YouTube channel and check out our poll, Are You an Everydayer? And answer the poll. Let us know how often you listen. Last time I checked, we had a little over 300 votes. I would love to get that up more. I'd love to hear every person, how many times you listen to us. Or if you're new, let us know. So thank y'all so much for your support.
All right. So I know in Saturday's game, there was a little bit of controversial call at home plate where it looked like the catcher blocked off Mauricio Dubon. But we talked about it. You and I talked about it, and they kind of talked about it on air. And they said that it was the fact that the ball beat him so far ahead that the rule didn't really apply in that situation. And so.
Exactly. Yeah. Do you know what the numbers of the rule are?
What?
7.1.3, like 713, the area code.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so 7.1.3, and I believe I sent it to you over text, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably.
Yeah. So
there's been a lot of losing since then.
There has been. So rule. Gosh, I wish I had it pulled up.
It's fine.
Keep going, and I'll.
We can move on from that. It doesn't matter. The Astros lost that game. And then in today's game, Brandon Bielak, to his credit, he didn't pitch terribly. He didn't pitch great. He allowed 10 hits, which is way too much. Only allowed 2 earned runs. Okay, one of them was a missile by Julio Rodriguez. Yes. He didn't have any strikeouts. 1 run scored on a error by Jose Abreu, where it basically went in between his legs. And then you also had a run score on Matt Gage's balk, where it's basically just his pitching motion. So I don't know if you've ever watched him, but he does this little toe tap before he gets set to throw. And the umpire called him for a balk on that. And so Dusty Baker was like, wait, he does it. He's done it before. He's done it on every pitch afterwards. Why just that one situation? Why do you have to give that? So Dusty Baker got some clarification, and he said that it's because he shifted twice, but then he said that they're seeking clarity from MLB on the rule because Gage has done that in the 2 games he's pitched so far, and nobody said anything.
No, yeah. I love Matt Gage being on this team, and let's just hope that he kind of gets that cleaned up. We don't need any balk calls or balking and runs or anything like that. Just kind of adds insult to injury. But sometimes I don't know. Like there are just some calls that, for instance, do you remember the call where the diving tag of the runner that tried to extend sliding into second base. And Mauricio Dubon caught a ball from the outfield. Jake Myers threw it in. I believe it was J.P. Crawford tried to extend his single to a double, and he tagged his foot before it got to the base. And they called him safe, and he stayed there. They didn't overturn the call. New York got it wrong. And what is the point of reviewing a call if you're not going to overturn the obvious ones? I even saw Locked On Reds co-host Jeff Carr talk about, why are we reviewing calls if we're not going to reverse the obvious calls that are wrong? It makes no sense. And so the umpires don't have any control over it. Now it's 100% New York. Like, they basically put headphones on and wait for someone to say safe or out. That was frustrating. But those are the things you have to nitpick at when you have such an abysmal showing for the offense. Kyle Tucker hit into a lot of unlucky outs. He lined out a lot when he wasn't contributing. But really, some of the only contributors all series was from the bat of Tucker and Alvarez. They continue to mash. Are they going to ever mess with this lineup? I know Dusty loves varying lineups. Are we going to move Abreu down any? Right. Are we going to change Bregman's spot? Are we like what are we going to do when Brantley comes back? And I just want to know, is there any kind of creative thing that we can do to spark something in this offense? And you know what I noticed? The Mariners continued to challenge Yordan Alvarez, even though Abreu was behind him, which I thought was pretty bad managing of their pitching staff, because more times than not, he did something well. Like when he hit the opposite field ball and scored a couple runs, he didn't hit a home run, but he killed him with just hitting the ball to left field. He just poked it into left field. And so why do you challenge this guy? Yordan clearly is having a very good season. I would like him to have a great season, though.
All right, so I know the big elephant in the room today was what happened where the benches cleared and there was almost a little brawl, and it was because of a called timeout with less than 8 seconds, and Martin Maldonado took exception to that, and a rookie who's played maybe 31 at bats or something like that was like chirping at the umpire, or like Scott Service was getting upset and everything. But Jose Caballero was just like, Martin Maldonado just said, "Hey, get back in a box," or he said, "Get the F back in a box," or something like that. And that's what caused the whole fracas. So we could have just had a big fight there where Martin Maldonado could have got injected or something, but cooler heads prevailed in that situation. And Jose Abreu showed why he's on the team. He was the guy that was holding Martin Maldonado back and just saying, it's not worth it, don't worry about it. But it's just funny how just something as a timeout would just lead to benches clearing. But
I think frustration at some point probably sets in with the Astros. I don't mind every once in a while an Astros player getting up in the grill of another one. Sometimes I think that raw emotion can be a motivator. I think sometimes getting in the face of another player or getting things riled up. I'm not saying go to fist and like fighting. I'm not saying promote violence, but I'm just saying sometimes that gladiator mentality, not the full on Liriano charging after a backup catcher like he did when he was with the A's, right? But I want to see that fire. I want to see some of these players get emotional. I want to see, if we hit a game-winning home run, I want to see a bat flip. I want to see a bat flipped out of the stadium. Like I need to see more emotion out of this team. It might be helpful.
Yeah. So I think that this series, the Astros just need to move on. Yes, the Mariners are excited that they beat the Astros, and Mariners fans are all excited and everything. But we need to move on to the Angels. The Angels are ahead of us in the division, and now we're tied with the Mariners in the division. So all we can do at this point is just keep on winning, keep on beating teams in AL West. So for the Angel series, you're going to have Hunter Brown Monday against Patrick Sandoval. Then on Tuesday, it's going to be the marquee matchup of Framber Valdez versus Shohei Ohtani. And then on Wednesday, it's going to be Christian Javier versus Griffin Canning. So this is definitely going to be a epic series. This is not going to be an easy series by any means. So the Astros need to take care of business.
The Astros and the Angels have both lost the last 2 games. The Astros in the last 10 are 4-6. The Angels are 6-4. The Rangers just beat them up pretty good. And I think we go in LA and this is a winnable series, but I thought the Mariners series was winnable, especially after the first game. I was like, oh, look, we're going to win at least 2 out of 3. Boy, was I wrong. I really hope I'm not wrong about this, but I really think that Hunter Brown's going to take care of business. The Astros bats are going to hopefully wake up. Brantley and Chaz come back. I'm excited. I'm H-Town Wheelhouse. He's Eric the Man Huysman. Find him at Eric Talk Astros. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, because we are your team every day.
Go Stros.
Go Stros. Go get them, Maldy.